Welcome to Crime 411. I want to talk about the case of Summer Wells. I've had a lot of people asking me if I was going to cover it. I was on the fence about it. I want everybody to know that I have turned off any sort of ads to be played on this video because I do not want to cash in on the horrific situation of a 5-year-old girl going missing. There is no monetization on this video at all. Let's get into it. So, Summer Wells, 5 years old, missing from Kingsport, Tennessee. She was last seen on the 15th of June. And at this point, a lot of people are starting to turn their focus to Summer's father, Donald Wells. If you haven't been following, then I would encourage you to check out the interview room with Chris McDonough. He has interviewed the father. He has interviewed Summer's mother, Candace, and he has also interviewed Hunter, which is a 15-year-old boy that was with Summer and her mother on the day that Summer was last seen. And he does a fantastic job. So I would encourage you to go ahead and watch those videos on the interview room just to kind of bring yourself up to speed. Now, for those of you familiar with the case, her father started talking about the fact that she was abducted straight away. As soon as this incident happened, he was already talking about how she was abducted and he would see her in the resurrection, which that particular statement really was troubling to me. And it didn't sit well with me at all. However, he has been focused and so adamant that Summer had been abducted literally since this happened. And their home, they live in a very isolated area. They have a circular driveway, which is surrounded by woods on all sides. Now, there is a trail that goes down to the road, which Don, her father, has referred to as the dog trail. And he videoed how someone would get from his house down that dog trail to the street, which is Ben Hill Road. Now I want to play that, and then I want to go ahead and talk to you about some things that have come to my mind here.
I'm a little late here, so I'm going to still try to shoot this video. Here we go. Little generator. And the road and everything. Back door. So, yeah.
So this is the dog trail he talks about that he is convinced Summer was taken down and abducted and brought out to the road.
Creek down there. See the road in the distance. Definitely tell it's mostly dogs that's been through here. This road. Yeah.
I'm going to pause for just 1 second because I want to make sure for those who haven't seen this video, that creek that you're looking out right now is literally only a few inches deep with water. So for those who are not familiar or haven't seen this video, if you're wondering maybe Summer could have gotten into the water and drowned there, that creek is only a few inches deep.
And earlier today, they said there was, when they come up here, somebody was on a property and run off. I can't confirm that, but that's what they were saying. I don't know.
So again, it seems like he is wanting to make sure that people believe that there was somebody on that property. And he says that's what they are saying, but he can't confirm that. I'd like to know who is they? Who is saying that there was somebody on the property that ran off? Did law enforcement say this? Did the TBI say this? Did a neighbor say this? It's very vague. But the seed is planted there so that we are led to believe that there was, in fact, somebody on that property.
Yeah. So that creek, right to the road, there's a mailbox. And this is where the search dogs trail ended. That's where the trail goes up through there. That's about it.
You can hear he's out of breath. And I'm going to tell you in a second why I feel that that's important.
And then, of course, somebody said they spotted a truck parked here somewhere. We don't know. I didn't see it. That's just what somebody said. But so hopefully that helps y'all. Thank you so much.
Yeah, if you want to take a video of going down the hill to the road, that's one thing. But when you come up that same terrain, it is a completely different experience than going down that terrain. Anybody knows that going uphill is 10 times harder than going downhill. That type of terrain that leads down to the road is not an easy terrain to climb up. And I can tell you that from personal experience because I'm in relatively good shape and I am also in Tennessee. And just the other day, I took my son fishing. We went down a trail that was behind one of his friends' houses. And this trail goes down about 5 minutes and it takes you to the river. So the walk down was fine. In fact, at times it was like, whoa, I need to slow down a little bit because when you're going downhill, you can pick up some speed. We fished for a few hours and then afterward we came back the same way up that same trail to go back home. And I can tell you, I was seriously struggling to make it back up that trail. I was so out of breath. I had to sit down and take a break because I felt like I couldn't breathe. And again, I'm in relatively good shape. That type of terrain is difficult when you're going uphill. So yes, a video showing what that trail going downhill looks like may very well suggest this. Yeah, it makes sense. This girl could very easily have been abducted and grabbed from her home and carried down a hill. But when you look at the big picture, someone would have to have come up that same path and been in pretty stellar shape to do it. And to be able to climb all the way up there or hike all the way up there, whatever you want to call it, grab a little girl and still have the capability physically to carry a person down that hill to the road, if you're familiar with that type of terrain, is extremely unlikely. So again, we have to look at the big picture. And the big picture is not only about going down the hill. You have to factor in that that same individual would have to have come up that hill and grabbed her. And that's not as easy as that video made it look. There have been a few things that have really stood out to me when it comes to Summer's father, Don. One of the statements he made, it didn't sit well with me for a few reasons. He was talking about how Summer loved him so much and how Summer loved him more than anybody else has ever loved him, and that Summer loved him unconditionally. We're talking about a little 5-year-old girl, right? So what conditions were there that she loved him in spite of was one of the things I wanted to know. That basically says she loved me no matter what I did. What did you do? Right? Because we know that he admitted in an interview with Chris McDonough on the Interview Room that he did molest his stepsister for 7 years, right? And she was 5 years old when that started. And he was significantly older than his stepsister. So he was about 18 or 19 years old when that horrific situation finally came to an end for that girl. But he wasn't a child. He wasn't a child who was not aware of what he was doing being wrong. No, he was a grown man at that point. So what conditions were there that Summer loved him in spite of? I really want to know the answer to that. Another thing is that, right from day one, he has talked about the fact that he knows she's abducted. He knows someone dragged her down that dog trail. And then if you were following his social media, he started talking immediately about how easy it was for people to cross the border into Mexico. He had devised this entire scenario, this entire detailed scenario about what happened to his daughter, but at the same time, law enforcement hadn't come up with anything to suggest an abduction had actually occurred. So it's one of those situations where you can tell that the individual they're deflecting. And he twists it around and makes it about Don all the time. He's been under constant scrutiny on social media. He has been going on these crazy rants on social media against anyone that's trying to help him, whether it be Chris McDonough or anybody that's trying to help him. And people have constantly said, where is the outcry for Summer? Why are you not posting any pictures of your daughter? All you're doing is talking about religion, hiding behind religion. And that was another thing that he had said that was so disturbing to me. When Summer was missing, it was like a day or two after. And he was already talking about the fact that he knew she was dead, but he would see her in the resurrection. I cannot wrap my head around that. That to me was so bizarre that I had no words for it. Another interesting thing that I've noticed was right before the boys were removed from the home, Don said that he flipped out and went back to drinking because someone had told him that they had inside people at the FBI and that they knew he had sold Summer for drugs. And he flipped out and started drinking. But there have been so many people who have accused him of such horrific things all over his own Facebook, and he didn't flip out and start drinking because of any of those statements. It was the fact that the FBI knew that he had been involved in Summer's disappearance. That was the one big difference between what that person said and he flipped out, and what thousands of other people have said all over his social media about him being involved in his daughter's disappearance. I think, personally, my opinion is that he was terrified that they knew he was involved. but that's just my opinion. So up until today, Don's Facebook has literally been nothing but religious rants and posts about, abductions and going to Mexico and just crazy stuff. Then, of course, Chris McDonough on the interview room gets him on a call, and he admits to sexually molesting his stepsister. 7 years of torture that young lady is going to live with for the rest of her life. And the thing that's even more disturbing is that he speaks about this with such a nonchalance, like he doesn't even really think it's wrong. Anyhow, this is Don's page today. So we see that all of the rants, all of the religious rants are gone. And there's Summer. What a beautiful little girl. She's so cute. But here she is again. And these are the first pictures, really, that Dawn has posted since her disappearance. Why does it take you 2 months or 6 weeks, whatever it's been, to post a picture of your daughter? Why are you on Facebook fighting with strangers and hiding behind religion when your 5-year-old daughter is missing? So now his Facebook is flooded with pictures of Summer. All of the crazy posts that he had put up are deleted, which could be for, different reasons. It could be, one, he wanted to get rid of all the hateful comments that were being posted to his Facebook page, or he wanted to start looking like the loving father we should have been seeing since June 15th. Either way, it stinks. Look at this beautiful little girl. She is just absolutely adorable. And up until today, we haven't seen a single picture that he has posted to his Facebook at all. He also never says about how much he loves Summer. He'll talk about her in the past tense. I loved her so much. But it's a very rare occasion that he says he loves his daughter. It's always, she loved me so much. Again, classic narcissistic behavior there. And of course, there's the video of her playing outside. As you can see, he has been very actively posting on Facebook since this whole thing with Chris McDonough hit the fan. I mean, what an absolutely adorable little kid. She is just the cutest little thing. And it takes you 7 weeks to put her picture up there? Are you kidding? A lot of people are starting to look at Don and question his involvement in the disappearance of his daughter. And I can certainly understand why people feel that way, especially knowing that he had sexually molested his stepsister. And the other thing that is super, super strange is the fact that he is saying that he beat police to his house. He says that he was under the impression that he got home at 5:30. The 911 call wasn't made until 6:30. So there is a major discrepancy there. And how could you not remember whether or not police were there when you came home? He is saying that he beat police there. Police are saying that their entrance was blocked when he got home and that they ID'd him to let him onto the property. So I can't help but wonder, maybe he is confused because maybe he was actually at the house or in those woods around 5:30. Pure speculation. I'm just throwing it out there. I certainly don't want to accuse anyone of anything, but you know, you've got, what, 20 dogs on the property, and he says that, ironically, that day the dogs weren't there. Well, if they weren't there, then wouldn't you have seen that there were dog prints on the dog trail that you claim your daughter was abducted and dragged through? Where were the dogs? And the thing, too, is that I'm sure he's read on social media how many people have said, how could Summer have been grabbed by a stranger and those dogs did not bark? So now, conveniently, the dogs were not there that day. All 20 dogs were not there that day. Nobody knows where they were. There's definitely more to this than meets the eye. I don't like to point fingers, but at the same time, I do speculation pieces. I am speculating what I think based on the facts that I have. And so far, it's just not looking real good for Dawn. Another thing that stood out to me was he posted on his Facebook that somebody must have Summer in a basement somewhere. And when Chris McDonough went to do the interview with Summer's mother, Candace, at the house, they go into the basement. And this basement was really more like, it looked like something out of a horror movie, to be honest with you. The ceiling was just beams. It honestly looked like a dungeon. And I thought it was very interesting and very ironic that he commented that Summer must be tied up in a basement somewhere. If you haven't seen that video, again, you'll want to go to the interview room and watch that. But, you know, that was not a basement. That was it looks like a child's worst nightmare. I wouldn't sleep down there, and I'm 43 years old. It was terrifying. That's my take on some of the Dawn stuff that's going on. Feel free to leave your comments. Give me a like. Give me a dislike. If you hate me, that's fine too. I don't care. Again, I'm just doing this to help get the story out about Summer. Monetization is completely off. I do not want to make anything off of this little girl, but I did have people asking me to cover it, so I wanted to go ahead and get it out there. Thank you for tuning in. Hit the subscribe button, and I will see you next time.